Hi again. Welcome to the 6th episode of TME Under the Hood Elastic-Excel. In episode 5, we showed the cluster member management as done in the web UI. Now, we will do the same only through the command line interface, which is the preference to some of the engineers that use our products. To do that, we need to be in expert mode, so start by running an ifconfig command to review the interfaces available. For those of you who watched the previous episode, you will notice that we see the same interfaces we saw in the web UI, and then some, because in CLI, we can also see the bonded interfaces which wouldn't be shown in the web UI's list of available interfaces. In case you have not seen episode 5, I will repeat the relevant information regarding those interfaces. In this case, the bond interfaces are MAG1, M-A-G-G-1, which is the actual bond, and the slave is the management interface. With the IP address of MAG1, we connect to the management server. The second bonded interface is the sync bond interface. After the first time wizard, the ETH0 interface automatically transforms to ETH1 sync, which is the slave to the sync bond interface. The ETH2 interface is an internal interface for internal network. To add members using command line interface, let's begin with checking the cluster member's status by running the following command. This command will enable us to see the SMO member and other members that are ready to connect to the Elastic-Excel cluster. In this case, we have the second member we configured in the second episode of this series. You can see the serial number, request ID, version, model, and the state which shows request to join. The hostname and ID are not set as the member has not yet joined to the cluster. Another option to check the member's state is by viewing it in JSON format with the following command: show cluster members state format JSON. The same information is there, just organized in a JSON format. Two members, first is the SMO and the second is in request to join status. Now you will see how to add a second member via the CLI. Type the following command: add cluster member method. The method in the command refers to the way you choose to identify the member you want to add, by hostname, serial number, or request ID. We saw these parameters in the table the previous command brought up, but this time they are in a different context. And what is common to all three is that they are unique identifiers, unique to the member, so can be used to target a specific one for any action. Just to close the loop here, this was not needed in the web UI episode, but it is of course available as you can see on the screen now. Let's decide to use the hostname and proceed with adding the cluster member on CLI, in which case you will be running this command: add cluster member method, hostname, identifier, and the gateway name. At this point, when configuring the member formation in the web UI, we had to choose one of two options. In CLI, there is no description of the option, so I will tell you that if you choose one, this member will be in a load sharing cluster with the SMO. If we choose 2, the member will be logically in site number 2 and will act as a high availability cluster for redundancy purposes. In case there are more than one member in each site, then within each site, the firewalls will be load sharing between them, and between the sites, it will give the cluster high availability. We can see that the member was successfully added as member 1_2. The 1_2 is the ID the member got. 1 is for the site and 2 is for the member ID. Let's revisit the member state table and see how it looks at this point. I will type the command show cluster. The table shows that the member has joined the cluster, but the hostname is not set yet, not until the process is complete. The adding action is completing in the background. Be aware that this can take a few minutes, but when it's finished, looking at the table again will show you the final status of the members. The hostname was changed, and the members in the same site are tagged with their own IDs 01 and 02. In addition, the state shows cluster_member, which means that now the member is part of the Elasticsearch cluster. As we did in the previous episode, we'll show how to delete a member. Type the following command using the same unique parameter we used before, the host name. Just note, it has changed, so make sure to copy the new one. The command is delete cluster member method hostname identifier and the hostname or cluster member. The deletion process also takes a few minutes until done. Let's see how it looks like by typing the following command, show cluster. We see that member 2 has a state of leaving_cluster, so it's under processing and it was not done yet. After the deletion process is completed, we will see the second member goes back to a state of request to join. So we have added and removed members using the command line interface, to and from a cluster. This is the place to add that if you are familiar with the VS Concept, the virtual system option Check Point offers on every gateway, that this option is still the same within an Elasticsearch gateway. But note, a VS cannot act as an actual member. This brings us to the end of the 6th episode of the TME Under the Hood series on Elasticsearch. We went from defining our SMO and members through the management configurations and the member management, both in the web UI and command line interface. You had a sneak peek into the ease of configuration and, most importantly, the unified experience aligning with other Check Point security products. So now that we have an Elasticsearch working cluster, do you want some insights into your Elasticsearch performance and health? Join us for the penultimate episode of this series where you will get an overview of Insights 2. Thank you for watching and see you soon.